Have you ever wondered what happens in your brain when anxiety takes over? That racing heartbeat, relentless thoughts, and body tension don't happen by chance. They all start in your brain, where complex systems kick into action, often without your awareness. But how exactly does anxiety work? In this video, we'll dive into what happens in your brain during an anxiety episode. You'll learn about the role of the amygdala, the impact of neurotransmitters, and how anxiety can affect your memory, focus, and even your brain's long-term health. And here's the best part. We'll share practical techniques to help you calm your mind and regain control. If you feel like anxiety is interfering with your life, this video is for you. Get ready to understand your mind like never before. Let's get started. How anxiety affects the brain. The role of the amygdala and the nervous system. Anxiety begins in the brain, and the main culprit behind this sensation is the amygdala, a small, almond-shaped structure in the limbic system that acts as a threat detector. When you feel anxious, the amygdala interprets something as dangerous, even if that danger isn't real, and sends out alarm signals to the body. It's as if the brain triggers an emergency alert, preparing you to fight, flee, or freeze. This activation of the amygdala sets off a chain reaction in the autonomic nervous system, specifically the sympathetic nervous system. The result? Your heart races, your breathing becomes shallow, and your muscles tense up. These responses are meant to prepare your body to face a real threat. However, in cases of anxiety, this alarm often goes off without a valid reason. Another key player in this process is the hypothalamus, which activates the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal (HPA) axis. This system releases hormones like cortisol, often called the stress hormone. Cortisol boosts your energy levels to help you handle perceived danger, but when it's overproduced, like during frequent episodes of anxiety, it can impair the brain and body's ability to function optimally. Interestingly, anxiety also affects the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logical thinking and decision-making. When the amygdala becomes overactive, the prefrontal cortex loses some of its control, making it harder to concentrate and think clearly. That's why, during intense moments of anxiety, you might struggle to make decisions or think rationally. This interplay between the amygdala, the nervous system, and the prefrontal cortex creates a cycle. The more the amygdala perceives threats, the more the body reacts, and the harder it becomes for the mind to differentiate between real and imagined dangers. This explains why anxiety can feel so overwhelming and difficult to manage. Anxiety is like an overly sensitive alarm system, going off far more often than necessary, disrupting the brain and body's balance. But how exactly do neurotransmitters play a role in this process? These chemical messengers are essential in shaping how you feel and react, and they're the focus of our next topic. The impact of anxiety on neurotransmitters. Dopamine, serotonin, and cortisol. When you experience anxiety, the balance of neurotransmitters in your brain is directly affected, amplifying feelings of worry and discomfort. These neurotransmitters are chemical messengers that regulate mood, focus, and even how you perceive your surroundings. Three key players, dopamine, serotonin, and cortisol, have a significant role in anxiety. Dopamine, often called the reward neurotransmitter, is responsible for motivation and pleasure. In people with anxiety, dopamine levels can become dysregulated, making it harder to find joy in everyday activities and increasing feelings of restlessness. This imbalance may also explain why anxiety often comes with procrastination or difficulty concentrating on important tasks. Serotonin, which helps regulate mood and well-being, is another neurotransmitter affected by anxiety. Low serotonin levels are linked to constant worry and pessimism. This is why many medications for anxiety, such as selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, aim to increase the availability of serotonin in the brain, helping to restore emotional balance. Cortisol, known as the stress hormone, is released in large amounts during episodes of anxiety. While cortisol is essential for responding to real danger, excessive production can harm the brain, especially the hippocampus, which is responsible for memory and learning. High cortisol levels also contribute to fatigue and make it harder to relax, creating a vicious cycle of stress and anxiety. Additionally, anxiety can disrupt the release of gamma-aminobutyric acid GABA, a neurotransmitter that acts as the brain's brake, helping to slow down thoughts and relax the body. When GABA levels are low, anxious thoughts become more intense, making it difficult to achieve mental rest. This is why some therapies, including anti-anxiety medications, focus on increasing GABA levels. Neurotransmitters are like conductors of an emotional orchestra. When they are out of sync, anxiety takes over, throwing both the brain and body off balance. But how does this imbalance affect memory and focus? That's what we'll explore next as we dive into the relationship between anxiety and memory. The relationship between anxiety and memory. Why we feel so distracted. If you've ever struggled to remember something important during a moment of anxiety, you're not alone. Anxiety directly impacts memory and focus, making tasks that require concentration and reasoning significantly harder. This happens because, when the brain is in a state of alert, it prioritizes dealing with perceived threats rather than efficiently storing or retrieving information. The hippocampus, the area of the brain responsible for processing short-term memories and converting them into long-term memories, is particularly affected by anxiety. Elevated levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, can cause a functional blackout in this region. As a result, simple tasks, like remembering where you left your keys or what you were about to say in a meeting, may feel unexpectedly difficult. Anxiety also overactivates the prefrontal cortex, the brain's region involved in decision-making and problem-solving. Under pressure, the prefrontal cortex struggles to organize information and sustain attention, which explains why people with anxiety often feel disconnected or unable to concentrate for extended periods. Additionally, anxiety redirects mental energy toward processing threats, even if they are imaginary. This intense focus on worrisome thoughts consumes the brain's cognitive resources, leaving less capacity for memory and everyday tasks. It's as if your mind is too busy dealing with what-ifs about the future to stay present in the moment. Interestingly, anxiety can even create false memories. When the brain is in a heightened state of alert, it tends to exaggerate or distort past events, especially those tied to negative experiences. This can lead to feelings of guilt or regret over things that may not have happened the way you remember, further fueling this cycle of anxiety. The relationship between anxiety and memory highlights how mental states can influence daily functioning. Thankfully, techniques like meditation and deep breathing exercises can help mitigate these effects, restoring balance in the brain. But what happens when anxiety becomes chronic? In the next section, we'll explore the long-term impacts of prolonged anxiety on the brain. Chronic anxiety and its long-term impact on the brain. When anxiety becomes chronic, its effects on the brain can be profound. Unlike occasional worry, chronic anxiety keeps the body and mind in a constant state of alertness. This persistent activation strains regions of the brain like the amygdala, hippocampus, and prefrontal cortex, gradually altering their structure and functionality. The amygdala, which is responsible for detecting threats, tends to become hyperactive in individuals with chronic anxiety. This means the brain begins to perceive danger in situations that pose no real threat, creating a cycle of constant worry. Additionally, this hyperactivity makes relaxation difficult, causing the sensation of being always on edge to become the norm. The hippocampus, which processes memories and helps regulate emotions, also suffers under the effects of prolonged anxiety. Elevated cortisol levels, the stress hormone, can shrink this region over time, impairing the ability to form new memories and recall past events clearly. This contributes to the brain fog or mental confusion often reported by people with anxiety. The prefrontal cortex, which plays a critical role in decision-making and impulse control, is another area affected by chronic anxiety. Reduced activity in this region makes it harder to plan, solve problems, and maintain focus. This can lead to impulsive behaviors or procrastination, further fueling cycles of worry and frustration. Chronic anxiety also disrupts the connectivity between different parts of the brain. For instance, the communication between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala can weaken, reducing the ability to rationalize fear and worry. As a result, individuals may become more emotionally reactive and less able to control automatic responses. The long-term impacts of chronic anxiety on the brain highlight the importance of addressing this condition proactively. Therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, mindfulness practices, and medical interventions can help reverse some of the negative effects, restoring emotional balance. For those seeking practical strategies to manage anxiety, the next section will explore effective techniques to calm the mind and regulate the brain. How to calm an anxious mind. Techniques to regulate the brain. Calming an anxious mind may seem challenging, but there are proven techniques that can help regulate the brain and reduce anxiety symptoms. These practices target areas of the brain involved in stress responses, such as the amygdala and prefrontal cortex, promoting a sense of balance and calm. With consistent use, these strategies can significantly enhance your quality of life. One of the most popular techniques is diaphragmatic breathing, also known as deep breathing. When you breathe slowly and deeply, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for calming the body and mind. Try inhaling for 4 seconds, holding your breath for 4 seconds, and exhaling for 8 seconds. This slows your heart rate and sends a signal to your brain that everything is okay. Practicing mindfulness is another powerful tool. It involves focusing on the present moment, observing your thoughts and sensations without judgment. Studies show that mindfulness strengthens the prefrontal cortex and reduces amygdala hyperactivity, making it easier to manage anxious thoughts. You can start with guided meditations or simple exercises, such as paying attention to your breath or the sounds around you. Physical exercise is also a strong ally in managing anxiety. Activities like walking, running, or yoga boost the release of endorphins and serotonin, neurotransmitters that promote feelings of well-being. Exercise also lowers cortisol levels, helping to balance the nervous system and improve mental clarity. Even 20 minutes of physical activity per day can make a big difference. Visualization is another effective technique. Close your eyes and picture a place or situation that brings you calm and happiness, such as a peaceful beach or a cherished moment with loved ones. This practice activates brain regions associated with pleasure and reduces amygdala activity, providing an immediate sense of relaxation. Finally, adopting a self-care routine is essential for preventing and managing anxiety. This includes maintaining a balanced diet, getting enough sleep, and avoiding excessive caffeine and alcohol, which can amplify anxiety symptoms. Over time, these small changes create a more supportive environment for your brain, helping you face life's challenges with greater resilience and clarity. After understanding what happens in your brain during anxiety, it's clear that this feeling is more than just discomfort. It's a powerful response from both body and mind, often misregulated. But what's even more important is knowing that there are ways to take back control, calm your mind, and restore balance. Have you ever tried a technique that helped you manage anxiety? Or do you have questions about how to put these strategies into practice? Share your experience in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to follow more content that unravels the mysteries of the human body and mind. See you in the next video. Until then.